So in Blackboard, under Project 9 and Class 6, I have I have a bunch of things here. I've got some wood veneers and wood floors, some patterns and various things that are going to help us with our rendering tonight. And you could, what I've done in the past is I've just had students, take these and then download them as they need them. So this is a bunch of wood veneers like for the kitchen cabinets. But what I have done for you is I've created a zip file here called Project 9 Assets. And everything in here is packed into the zip file. So you don't have to download all of this stuff, all of it's set up for you. So to download it, let's see. In the old Blackboard, it was so much easier. Oh, okay. So if I go over to this Project 9 assets and click on these three little dots over here, click download original file. I've got a CAD2 folder. And then what I did was I created a Project 9 folder. That way I can put all my Project 9 stuff in there. And I have oh, this is it right here. So I downloaded this a little earlier. I guess I downloaded it yesterday or this morning. It seems like yesterday. I downloaded it here and then I unzipped it. So I'm not gonna unzip. I'm not gonna download this because I already did. So you would just hit save here and save it, and then if I go to Project 9, and then if you want to unzip this file, the zip file, right click on it and then click extract all if you're on a PC. And I think if you're on a Mac, all you need to do is double click on it. So once I do that, then I get a nice clean folder here that says Project 9 textures and image files. And within that, I have a whole bunch of stuff here. So these are those wood patterns. There's some wood floor textures in here. Let me see if I can see the large icon. So there's some wood flooring here. What else? I've got some other images here. I've got like a couple living rooms. I have a couple scale figures, a woman and a dog. Uh, I've got metals in here, like if you want concrete or stainless steel. And what else? Some Project 9 examples. We'll look at more and better examples than these uh, later. And then I have uh, accessories, and these are like, you know, little canisters and KitchenAid and stuff like that. Okay. Then I created another folder and I called it assets. And generally speaking, whenever you're rendering, you'll most always have a folder that you dump all of your stuff into. So within my assets folder, I have like a couple images here, and I had downloaded some tileable textures. I've got a marble here and some subway tile. I downloaded this. This is just some cabinets with some hardware on here, some poles that I might want to use, and maybe I will use these tonight. So I'll show you how to. If you got a picture of hardware, you can use that hardware in your rendering. There's that guy, that dog that I downloaded, and it's just some various things. And as I download stuff, I usually just drop it into my assets folder so that it's in one place. And for every project that I work on, I usually will create a new assets folder, and then everything for that project is in one spot. Anyway, okay, so that is my file management there. And so let's talk about some of these tileable textures and where I got them, etc. So there are a couple resources. In fact, right here, there is a thing that says resources for tileable textures. And there are a couple links here. Now, one of these links, Architectures, has turned into a paid site. And if you're using SketchUp, Architectures works really well. But we're not using SketchUp, so this is probably a site that I won't be using. And I think that actually textures.com, which is really unfortunate, it is a paid site now too, as well. So let me look at these sites here. And also there as a resource, there's google.com, and you can just Google tileable textures flooring or tileable textures subway tile or tileable textures marble or whatever it is. And you can also do seamless textures. That'll work too. So this is an option if you don't want to go to any of these other sites. So the first one is SketchUp Texture Club. It's a really great site for getting textures. You need to create an account, and when you go in here, there is under architecture here, there are all kinds of materials. So look, there's some hex material, hexagon tiles. I mean, there's all kinds of fun stuff that you can download here. There's stone tiles. There's lots of cool stuff that you can just click on and download and put it into your assets folder, and then you'll have it. You have those textures that you can use on your project. It's a very good site, SketchUp Texture Club. Okay, here's another really good one. It's called 3D Jungle. And you can look for, there's models here, but what we're generally looking for are textures down here. So this is another really very nice resource, and this stuff is free, so you could just download it. All right, so the third one is textures.com. This also an amazing site. But now they're using some kind of a credit system. So I don't know, when you sign up, you get X number of credits, and then you can download, these textures for free. But then otherwise, then after that, I think you have to pay for it. So then there is another one here called ambientcg.com. This is one that I haven't really used very much. In fact, just today I started playing with it. So if I go here, marble tile or just marble, let's just look at that. See if I can find the one that. Okay, so I think earlier today I was looking at this. Yeah, and I downloaded this. So there are a bunch of different sizes here, everything from 4 megs to 740 megs, depending on the type of project that you're working on. But for this project, I downloaded the 4 meg, and it works really just fine, and it's nice and small. So I would recommend downloading the 4, but I think the 4 meg actually worked really nicely. So I'm not going to download it, but let me go over to my assets here. Here it is. This is the marble file that was downloaded, and it is a zip file. So I had to unzip it, and when I unzipped it, I got this. And in here are a bunch of different files. Let me look at the large icons here. So there's like a displacements file, and then there's two normal files. There's a roughness file, and these files here. When you are using a rendering engine like Inkscape, as an example, you will use these displacement files and the normal files and the roughness files to give it a photorealistic quality. But for this project, because we're just doing it in Photoshop and you don't really need these other files, the only one that I am really needing is this marble color, the color file here. So if you do download it into your assets folder and you're seeing all of these files, the one that you're interested in is the color one. That's the one that's gonna give you the titleable texture that you need. Okay. Enough of that. So let me now switch over to AutoCAD. All right, so this is my rendering. I made some tweaks after our class last week and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. And I am going to, I'm not even going to go into paper space, or I'm just going to plot from here, and I'm going to create a PDF file that I am going to use to import into Photoshop. So let's create the file. So I'm just going to use my plot tool. So I'll just type plot, and it's asking me if I want to batch plot, which I do not want to do. So I'm just going to go to plot a single sheet here. And I, by default, AutoCAD sets the plot, the printer or the plotter to AutoCAD PDF general documentation. And to be honest, it's probably fine, but just to tweak it a little bit, I'm putting it at AutoCAD PDF high quality. So just to make it, just a little bit more crisp when I plot this out. Then I'll leave my plot style table to monochrome as it always is. And I want to set my paper size. And what I did here is I set my paper size to ANSI A, which is, no, I'm going to set it to ANSI B, which is 11 by 17. So it is 11 by 17. And down here, I'm going to set it to landscape. So it's running horizontally. And I want my plot area, I'm going to choose a window. So right now mine is set to display, which is if I just plot it like this, it'll plot my whole window here. But I want to use a window. So I'm going to choose window, and then I just need to pick, you know, the upper left and the lower right corner of the window of the elevation here. So there we go. So there it is. There's a little thumbnail of it. And if I click center the plot over here, it will hopefully center the plot on my 11 by 17. And if I do a little preview, yeah, that looks okay. I'm getting some line weight delineation. I think this is going to be just fine. So let me go over to plot here. And it's going right to my Project 9 folder, so that's good. And the file name that it wants to plot is this whole thing, Project 8 Kitchen Elevations. And I am just going to shorten that to elevation and click save. And there it is. There is the PDF of my elevation. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so good. Done with AutoCAD. That's all we needed AutoCAD for, is just to plot that PDF. So I'm going to minimize this, and hopefully I have Photoshop fired up and ready to go. I'm going to create a brand new file. And to create a new Photoshop file, there is a little blue pill-shaped button right in the upper left of your interface, and just click New File, and you get a new document dialog box that comes up. So from here on the right side, here's where we will set up our document. So I'm gonna do this document on 11 by 17. I like doing my renderings just in general 11 by 17. They're really good size because you can put them in a portfolio without having to fold them or anything like that. They photograph really nicely. The PDF of them turns out nice and crisp. It's just a really it's just a really good size. So I'm going to do 11 by 17. But the first thing that you want to check right here is this. Often, Photoshop will set its default to pixels, and you do not want to have 17 by 11 pixels. Double check and make sure it's at inches. So please do set it to inches. And the width is going to be 17 and the height is going to be 11. And if you want to flip the orientation here, like right now mine is set to portrait. I'm sorry, landscape. But if you wanted to set it to portrait, you could just click on this And you see that the width now is 11 and the height is 17. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to leave it on landscape. So it's 17 wide by 11 high. Okay, so I'm setting my resolution to 300. That's a pretty high resolution. If you have a slower computer, or maybe you don't have tons of memory, or your computer is maybe prone to crashing, you could bump this down to 200, or even 100, 150. You could even, or I've even seen it at 75, really. So, but I'm setting my resolution to 300 pixels per inch. Then the color mode. So this is set to RGB color, and there are a couple of different kinds of colors here. The two major colors that the industry uses is RGB and CMAC. CMAC is cyan, magenta, yellow, and K stands for black. Black. So that is CMAC, and RGB is red, green, and blue. Computer monitors or TV monitors or anything electronic always uses RGB. RGB prints great on laser jets and ink jets, and and it has a really wide color selection. So why would you use CMAC? Well, CMAC actually has less colors than RGB, but if you are sending your document to a printing house, say Architectural Digest or something that's going to actually print a magazine, their printing process uses four colors of ink: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So you want to align all of your colors so that they, work with blends or different percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So you would set your color to CMAC. But for everybody else, RGB is the way to go. And then my background contents, I'm going to set my background to white. So my background content is going to be set to white. And then I'm not going to play with the color profile and the aspect ratio of the pixels. I'm just going to leave those. And then I will click create. And there is our canvas. And, and we are ready to go. So briefly, we have this is our canvas, this is our drawing area, and to the left we have a bunch of tools running down here. And as I click on these tools, there is a menu of tools up here, a context sensitive menu up here that changes, and they are further settings for each of the tools. So as I choose a tool, I happen to be on the paint bucket tool here. There are other settings that I can use to adjust how this paint bucket tool is functioning. So that is something to be aware of. Also, for each of these tools, you'll notice that in the lower right-hand corner of them, there is a little triangle. And that triangle is a little indicator that is telling me that there are other tools that are tucked underneath this tool. So I happen to be one, two, three. I'm on the fourth tool down. I'm on my Magic Wand tool. If I left click and hold, I get some other tools here, like the object selection tool, quick selection tool, magic wand. So if I wanted to switch to the object selection tool, I can very easily change it to the object selection tool here. So I don't want to do that. I want to go to the magic wand tool. We're going to be using that tool tonight. So I'm going to go and left click and hold, and I get that little fly out of other tools, and I'll just choose my magic wand tool. And now you notice my cursor is already turned to a magic wand. It's ready to go. I'm not, but it is ready to go. So for each of these tools, as I click on it, my cursor changes, and this context sensitive menu also changes up here. There is down here this thing, menu thing. I don't know what to even call this thing, but and what it changes also as I'm working. This thing also will change and give me the opportunity to like close or delete something, or right now it's saying generate image. So I can do things with this floating tool. And when it first came out, I was a little bit annoyed with it, but now I really do like it a lot. And the only thing is, by default, it follows you around. So if I click up here, this thing will appear over here, and then if I do something over here, it'll move over here, and that's fine. And a lot of people are fine with that and they like it. But for me, it just kind of gets in my, it's like in my hair, and I use the term figuratively because I hardly have any. But so what I like to do is I like to put it down here, and then there's three little buttons or three little dots right here. When I hover over it, it says more options, and I can pin this bar position. So just check that pin bar position, and it will stay down here. I mean, I can move it around. Wherever I move it to, that's where it will stay rather than pop around. So that's just me. It's just a preference thing. I just like it down here, kind of out of my way. Okay, now off to the right.
Do we have that? Just that's not on my screen. That one that's at the bottom there. Is
This thing,
that
this thing's
yeah.
not on your screen.
Mm,
Uh, what
does
version?
it matter?
What?
Um,
No, it doesn't really matter. It's a little handy convenience, but what? I'm just curious. What version are you using?
well, I just downloaded it, so
Oh, so it should
I
be
don't know.
new.
It should
Uh,
be new. I don't
so
and it updated, so I don't know.
what is this thing called? Uh, this contextual taskbar. Oh, that's it. Okay, so check this. Go over to Window and then
Okay.
go down to the bottom and look for this contextual taskbar. I guess that's what it's actually called. And if you click on that, you should be able to get it.
Oh, okay. There it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you had it unchecked, but you got it now. Okay, good. All right. So where was I? Okay, so off on the right over here. This first one is for color. It's a color picker, and you can enlarge and reduce the size of this. And I am just going to reduce this all the way as small as I can get it. And what I do generally is I use the color picker that is over here on the left, actually. Um, this color picker here, there's a foreground and background color over here. And when I click on the foreground color, this color picker comes up and I can choose a color from here. And then I'll just hit OK. And there my foreground color has changed. So this is generally the color picker that I like to use. There is also a background color. In this case, the background color is black. And there is a little arrow, two arrows up here, and I can switch foreground and background by clicking on those two little arrows there. And if I want to get back to pure black and pure white, to the left of those two tiny little arrows, there is a little button here. And when I click on that, that sets my foreground and my background color to pure black and pure white. So if I wanted pure white as my foreground color, I would just click on that little button there and then click on these little arrows, and now white is my foreground color. The other reason I like using this rather than this is when I click on this, I get RGB numbers and CMAC numbers, and I also get hex numbers here. There's a pound sign, and this happens to be FFFFF, which is the hex number for white. And so when I am looking at colors, like let's just say I've got a Sherwin-Williams fan deck, right? And I am looking for, a hunter green or whatever the color is. Generally speaking, on the backside of the fan deck or on the backside of the color swatch or on their website, Sherwin-Williams will give you the RGB or the hex, or sometimes the CMAC as well. So I can enter the red color and the green color and the blue color, or the hex number, which is a alphanumeric, 5-digit alphanumeric number, 5 or 6, and it will snap right to that precise Sherwin-Williams color. So this is really nice when I want to get a real color, a color that actually exists in the Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore or Pittsburgh Paint or Glidden or whatever fan deck you're using. All right, so I'm just gonna close that.
Hey Paul, I just have a question really quick. My toolbar, like on the right hand side, like how you have the color thing that says swatches, gradients, and patterns, mine doesn't look like that. I'm not really sure what happened, but like the properties, adjustments, and libraries are all their own tab, and I have to like manually click them to find it.
So properties, adjustments, and libraries here, you have that.
Yes, but they're not all like together. They're their own tab for some reason.
Hmm. Well, what about your layers down here?
That's also its own tab. I have to click that, and then I can only see like the black and white cookie and like FX at the bottom only when I click on layers, though.
Okay, so if you want to get it back, I'm learning this right now as I'm going here. So what I'm doing is I'm like moving this floating palette and I'm looking for just that horizontal line right there, and then it'll stick it in there. The thing that we're going to be using, everyone, is this layers palette. This is the important one to have. So if your colors are really minimized, like I've minimized mine, or your properties are showing here, and if you can minimize them as well, or just reduce the size of them, there's a little double arrow here that you can change the size. We're really not going to use properties, and we're really not going to use this color swatch over here. I'm going to use the floating one that I get from the buttons over here. But we will be using the layers palette down here. Okay, so brief 5-minute tour of the interface. So let's bring in our line work and place it onto our canvas here and start in. So to place a image or line work or anything into your rendering or your canvas, go to File, and then there are two options here: Place Linked, which allows you to change the image later on, but I'm going to choose Place Embedded here. So I'm going to embed that image directly into my rendering here. So I'm going to look for it, and I called it elevation. Here it is, and I'm going to place it into my document. Okay, there it is. And it is it's set itself up right in the middle of my canvas, and you'll notice that there is this big blue X running through it. That blue X is telling me that I am in the transform tool. And what I can do is transform this image. I can grab one of these grips here. You can see at each of the corners there is a grip, and then halfway on each side there is a grip. And I can change the size of this image. I can rotate the image, and if I hold my shift key down, I can distort the image. I can squish it down, so I can do all kinds of stuff with this, but I don't want to do that. So let me bring it into my thing again here. So that blue X is telling me that it is in my render, but it is ready to be transformed in some way. And I don't really want to. So I can either just hit your enter key and it'll go away, or on this little floating menu thing down here, there is a done button, and I can hit that and that X will go away. Or all the way at the very top, there is a little checkbox right here, or check mark. And any one of those will set that, get rid of those boxes or that X, and I have my render that is now in my drawing, or I have my line work in my rendering here. And I have a new layer. It's called elevation. Why is it called elevation? Because that is what I called that file when I exported it from AutoCAD. I called it elevation. So it is called elevation here. I think though I'm going to change the name of this layer, and the reason is that I want, in case I need to edit this line work, because this is all line work. I want to just be. I guess I can remember that it's called elevation. That all the line work is on the elevation layer, but me being me, I am just going to rename mine line work. So if I need to come back here and make some adjustment to this line work, I can come down to my line work layer and make that change. What else? There are little light eyeballs here to the left of each layer, and those allow me to turn that layer on and off. So if I want to turn my line work off, I can just click on that eyeball and my line work disappears. Want to bring it back, I'll just click on that little where the eyeball belongs, and the eyeball will come back, and the line work will come back. The background, I can click on the background, and the background will disappear. And you'll see that in its place, I get this gray and white checkerboard. What does that mean? Gray and white represents transparency in Photoshop. In fact, it represents transparency in lots and lots and lots of programs. So when you see this gray and white background, that means transparency or nothingness. By default, like in VizTech, I generally like to start with nothingness because white is actually a color as far as Photoshop is concerned. You know, when we're drawing on a white sheet of paper and we're, drawing a picture or we're sketching or anything, we think of that white sheet of paper as nothingness. But a white sheet of paper for Photoshop that means that this canvas is painted white. So it's a minor distinction, but it is a distinction that you need to be aware of, because if I erase on my background layer, I will erase the white, and then I'll get transparency behind it. Okay, enough of that. So let's just dive in and start doing some rendering. So we're going to have a number of things here. We're going to have some solid colors, like I'm going to paint the wall a solid color. And I think my plan is I'm going to do like a wood grain on the base cabinets down here. And then I think I'm going to paint the upper cabinets, just to give you, two ways that you can do this thing, just to give you some options. And so I'll have solid colors for the paint, and then I'm going to have wood grain patterns for the base cabinet. And then I'll do some sort of a tile background. Maybe I'll do that marble that I showed you, or the subway tile, or maybe I'll do both. I'll show you both. I want to do stainless um, for the fume hood here and for the fridge. So that I think is my plan. So let's start with the walls. So when I am putting color or applying color or texture to my rendering, the first thing I want to do is to identify the area that I want to apply that color or texture. And I do that with the Magic Wand tool. So the Magic Wand tool is on my tools palette here. It is the fourth tool down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I hover over it, it says Magic Wand. And if it doesn't say Magic Wand, left click and hold. That little flyout of additional tools will come out. Find Magic Wand and click on it. Then I want to make sure there's one thing that I want to check up here at this context sensitive menu up here, and that is sample all layers. I like to have this checked. So what that will do is if I am looking at an area here that I want to like this wall area here, what Photoshop will do is it'll look at all of the layers that I have in my layer stack and find that area there. So all right. So right now I'm getting this do not enter sign as Photoshop is telling me I can't do anything. And the reason I'm getting that is because over here in my layer stack, I have no layer selected. So I'm going to choose my line work layer. I'm going to make that my current layer. And now my cursor turns into the cute little Magic Wand tool, and I'm just going to select the wall. And what it has done is it is drawing or it is showing a marquee that is going around the entire wall area. And it is telling me this is the area that we are going to apply color or that you can apply color to or anything. I can draw in that area or apply a material or color or whatever it is I want to do. I can't apply color to any other area on this entire render, just this area that is selected with the marquee. So if I want to apply color to another area like this area here, then I select that area and then I can no longer apply color to the walls. I can just go in this area here. But I want to choose the wall, so I'm going to choose the wall there. And now I'm going to create an adjustment layer. An adjustment layer is, so I could just flood this area with color, but an adjustment layer is really, really powerful tool that allows me to tweak that color later on. And I am the king of tweaking. So I will start with one color and then I'll tweak it and adjust it later on. And an adjustment layer allows me to do that. So how do we do an adjustment layer? So I'm going to come down to the very bottom of my layer palette over here. And there is a tool right in the middle here. It looks like a little black and white cookie. And when I hover over it, it says create a new or fill adjustment layer. And yes, very often I do call this the black and white cookie. So if I left click on this, I get a whole bunch of different kinds of adjustment layers that I can create. But the one I'm looking for is solid color, the very top one here. So I'm just going to choose solid color. And my color picker comes up, and I happen to have had white here, so it is just putting white in there or no color. But as I move around on my color picker, I can change the color of my walls to whatever it is that makes me happy. So I don't know, I'm gonna just start kind of like with this. I'm just gonna start with this sort of this taupey khaki color, and I will just hit OK. And I now have a new layer that Photoshop has created for me. It's calling it Color Fill 1. And the first thing I want to do is rename it so that it's meaningful to me. So I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to call it Walls. So that is where my walls are, and you will notice there are two thumbnails. Unlike the background and the line work here, the walls layer has two thumbnails. So the left thumbnail is the swatch, and if I double click on the swatch, I get my color picker, and as you might guess, here is where I can start playing with that color again. So I can, at any time I want, just double click on the swatch and I can adjust the color of that of my walls. I'm going to leave mine, so I'm just going to hit cancel for now. The thumbnail to the right of it is a black and white thumbnail, and that is the layer mask. So, all right, let me see. So layer masks are, think of a layer mask as, let's just say you've got a, black Halloween mask and you're putting it on your friend, right? You're going to put it on their face. And their whole face is covered with this black mask. And but there's no mouth, there's no nose, there's no eyes. It's just this black oval over their face. And you want to be able to see their eyes. So what you would do is take the mask and you would cut little holes in the mask so that you can see underneath the mask and then you'll be able to see their eyes. So the same with a layer mask. It's like having we're hiding everything on that layer, and then everything that we want to see, we cut a little hole in, and you can see through. So in this case, if I turn this layer mask off, oop, if I can figure out how to, if I turn the layer mask off, what Photoshop has actually done is it has painted my entire canvas that taupey khaki color that I created. And if I want to change that color, I can change it here as well. If I could go here and I can play with that color. And then that area that we selected with the magic wand, that is the hole that we're cutting in the layer mask. So imagine this the canvas is this entire solid color, and then we put the mask over it so we can't see that color at all. It's invisible. And then we cut a hole in, and that is where I can see that color shining through. So hopefully that makes some sense to you. Let me turn this back on here. As I want to, let's just say I wanted to add paint to this area. I can't. Well, you know what? I don't want to confuse the matter. Well, I'll get it. I'll get into that later on. Okay, so I have some paint on the wall, and I want to deselect this marquee here that's still running around here. And there's a couple ways I can do it. I can hit Control D, D as in deselect, and that will get rid of this. But now on this little floating menu down here, there's a little deselect button down here, and I can use that as well. And then uh, my marquee is deselected. Okay, good. So let's now look at. I know I was going over to the backsplash earlier, so let's shift over to the backsplash. All right, so now I am selecting the backsplash here, and I am going to go to my black and white cookie. And I could do a solid color if I wanted to do a paint color. I could do that. But I'm going to choose a pattern here. I'm going to choose, we're going to put a tile or something there. So I'm going to choose pattern here, and I get this by default, these weird leaves that are coming on. Okay, fine, but that's not really what I want. Now, I have preloaded a number of patterns here that these are from my VizTech class that I was showing students stuff the other day. But you are probably not, if you haven't taken that, if you're not in that class, you may not have these patterns here. All you'll have are trees, grass, and water. And if you want, you can change this pattern to grass. I have no idea why you would ever do that, but you might want to. But I want my own pattern here. I want to use the pattern that I downloaded from the 3D from SketchUp Texture Club or one of the pre-selected patterns that are that you downloaded in your when you downloaded that file um, from Blackboard. So let me see here. Um, I'm gonna let's see what I got here. So bear with me here. You know what? I'm gonna go over to my assets here, and I've got okay. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna see if I can't pull in this the subway tile here, Metro tile structure. And this, I believe, what I did was I Googled this. I just said tileable texture subway tile, and I found this and downloaded it, loaded it into my assets folder. So let me load that up into Photoshop. So to do it, before I can load it into my rendering, what I have to do is I have to load it into Photoshop's memory. And I've got to first open up that tileable texture. So I'm going to go to File and then Open. And I'm going to find that texture. Here it is. And what Photoshop's done is it's opened it up as its own document here. Here it is. And here's my render is here. And then this is the tileable texture right here. And I need to load this into Photoshop's memory. So to do that, I'm going to go to Edit, and then about 2/3 of the way down, 2/3 or 3/4 of the way down, there is an option here to define pattern. And I'm going to click Define Pattern. And it is asking me for a pattern name. And by default, it is the name of the file, and which is fine. I could just totally just leave it, just hit OK, and you'll be fine. Or if you really want to, you can rename it. I'll rename mine. I'll call this subway tile. You can or not. You don't have to. And I'm just going to click OK. So it looks like nothing happened, right? But what actually did happen is this image went into Photoshop's memory. So now when I go to my render and I go to, oh, I have a new layer here called pattern fill, which is this weird pattern. And let me rename that. I'm going to call this backsplash. I should have done that right away. So now I want to change this weird grass that I have here to my subway tile. So I'm going to double click on the swatch here, and I'll go over to my pattern. There's a little button to the right of the pattern, and then I'll come down, and sure enough, there it is. It's always the last pattern that is in the list of patterns here. And look at that. It put in my subway tile. How nice. There are a couple adjustments I can make here. One of them is scale. So if I want to bring this down, and I probably do, it looks a little big, or that looks a little small, but I can play with that subway tile size until I'm happy with it. There's also an angle adjustment. So I might want to put this at, you know, I don't know why I would ever do that, but you could, right? Or I could do this at 90 degrees if I wanted, and have the tile running vertically. I don't want to do that, but so I'm going to set it back to 0. But you can adjust the angle. Also, I can come in here and I can move the pattern around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pattern so that the first tile is kind of like right on top of the countertop. I think that, rather than start it with a half tile or a sliver of a tile, I'm going to start it right at the top of the countertop with a whole tile. And maybe I can adjust it left and right so that, this joint is centered. Actually, that's centered pretty well. Or center it between the opening of the counter here, between the cabinets here. But set it to where you like it, what makes you happy, and then I'll hit OK. And now I have a subway tile texture on the back of my backsplash or my back wall. Now, what else I can do with this is I can start adding some shadows to this. And if I do an inner shadow, it will give me some shadows that are within the subway tile here, and it'll show up on my render here and give it some three-dimensional quality. So I'm on my backsplash layer here, and to start to add some shadows, I'm not going to click on the black and white cookie. I'm going to click on this button here, which is the FX, and that's actually called Layer Styles. And I'm going to click on the FX here, and I'm going to choose an inner shadow. So I'm going to find inner shadow up here. And let me move this off to the right a little bit. And you can see that it's starting to have some shadow going on here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the angle. And I generally like to have my angle at 135. For me, this is an angle that seems to work really really nicely here. And I'm going to start to play with these settings over here: distance, choke, size, and also opacity here. But you can see that it is producing some shadows underneath here, which is giving this some three-dimensional quality. It's kind of pushing the tile back, and it's pulling the wall cabinets forward. So that is, you can you can get really dramatic with this, um, or subtle, depending on what your your preferences. And you can play with the opacity here and make it a little less dark, make it a little lighter here. And then I'll just hit OK. So now I have some drop shadow just like that, right? Hardly any work at all. And boom, I have some three-dimensional quality here. Now, if I look at my layer here, my backsplash layer, it has added an effect here. It has added an inner shadow effect. And I can have multiple effects on this layer, and they would all line up here below inner shadow. And I can turn any one of them off by clicking on the little eyeball, and that inner shadow turns off and on. Or if I have multiple effects and I want to turn them all off, I can click on this effects eyeball and they would all go off. There's only one effect, so this effect eyeball is doing the same thing as the inner shadow effect eyeball, but you get the idea. Okay, good. Um, what if I want to change it to the marble? I did download that marble image, so let's do that. So I'm going to go to File and Open. And see, I think I put it to my assets. I think it's this marble. Here it is. So there is the tileable texture. And I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to Edit, Define Pattern, about 2/3 of the way down. It's calling it Marble 14, whatever. I'm just going to leave that name. I'm fine with it. I'll just hit OK. Now, it doesn't look like it's done anything, but it has actually pulled it into Photoshop. So now when I go to my render and I want to change my subway tile to the marble, I will click on my swatch, come over to my pattern fill and look over here. There is the marble, and there I have the marble. And look, it has even remembered to put the shadows in. So I can play with the scale here, maybe. I don't know if I want to make, oh, that's too small. Actually, about 67 or that's about, I think that's about right. I can move this pattern around if I want. I could change the angle of it if I want. Maybe I want the graining to go, in a different way. And when I'm happy with it, I'll just hit enter. Okay. So let's do something else. So let's do,
Sorry, I have one quick question, Paul. I'm sorry.
no,
Can
no,
you say
sure.
what, like again under edit, when you pull up that the edit when you have it opened, how do you get it to save again?
From here.
No, from the other tab that just says like marble. And then you said go to
Oh,
edit and
oh,
then
from
something.
here?
Sorry, go. Yeah.
From here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So yes, I go to edit and then I go
Uh-huh.
two-thirds down to define pattern.
Ah, okay. Thank
Click
you.
on define pattern, hit OK, and it'll be loaded into Photoshop. It doesn't look like it's done anything, but it has loaded it into Photoshop's memory.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. Before I go any further, I noticed that I haven't saved my file, so I'm going to do that right now. Last thing I want to do is crash and not have my file. So I'm going to go to File, Save, and I'm going to go to my Project 9 here, and I'm going to call it your first name, last name, underscore, and I'll call this Kitchen Elevation. Okay. All right, so now let's look at my cabinets here. So I have, for my wall cabinets, I have stiles and rails. Stiles run vertically. Think of like a T, the capital letter T has a long vertical. So that's how I think of stiles and rails, like in the letter A, there's a horizontal bar, and that is this horizontal here. So that's how I remember it. So this has got stiles and rails, and then it has an inner panel right here. And depending on what you're doing, yours may be totally flush. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this inner pan. I want to have like a little shadow on this inner panel. So I don't want them in the same plane. I want this one pushed back a little bit. So I'm going to do this on multiple layers. I'm going to have a layer for my wall cabinets, this paint color here for my stiles and rails. And then I'm going to have another layer for my panel, for my cabinet panel. So let me start by selecting the stile and rails here. And I am holding down my shift key as I go to select all of my stiles and rails. And I have more over here, but I'll get to those in a minute. Okay. I'm just gonna concentrate on these right now. So I've got those stiles and rails, and let's put in a solid color. I'm gonna just paint these. So I'm gonna go over to my black and white cookie adjustment layer and create a solid color adjustment layer. And I get my color picker, and when I move my mouse off of the color picker, it turns into a little uh, eyedropper. And what I can do is I can take a color from my backsplash if I want, or I mean, you can pick any color you want. But if you want to, just start with a color, you can pick a color from the backsplash or whatever it is that you're working on, and then you can further adjust it here too as well if you want. But I'm just gonna sort of choose that, and I guess I'm gonna be doing a khaki kitchen here. So I'll just hit OK, and I have a new layer called Color Fill 1. So right away, I want to name this. So I'm going to call this wall cabinet. So I'm going to say call this WC wall cabinet uh, styles and rails, or I'll just call this styles. So, or you know what? No way, because the wall cabinets here are just all paint. I'm just going to call this wall cabinet paint. Okay, now let's look at the inner panels here. So I'm going to choose with my magic wand here. I'm going to choose these two inner panels, and I'm choosing multiple areas by holding my shift key. So I've got them both selected. And I'll go over to my trusty black and white cookie, choose solid color, and I'm going to want them to be the same color as my styles and rails here. So I'm just going to use my my little eyedropper here to choose the color of the rail here, and I'll hit OK. And right now I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it Wall Cabinet WC and then Panel for the inner panel. Okay, so now just like I did for this backsplash here, I'm going to put an inner shadow on this wall cabinet panel layer. So I'm going to go down to my FX, and I'm going to look for inner shadow. And there I go. So that is way too heavy. So I'm going to change the distance. I'm going to make this a lot smaller. Just play with these things here. Just to get a little bit, just a little bit of shadow here is what I'm wanting. And when I pull back, hey, that's looking okay. And if I'm not happy with that color, I can go to my color picker and, change the color to, whatever I want. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cancel, but I can do that. And I don't lose my shadows as either. All right, so now I have wall cabinets over here, don't I? So what do? Do I have another layer here? No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these colors to these styles and rails here. And to do that, I'm going to cut more holes in my WC Paint mask, my layer mask over here. So I'm selecting my WC Paint mask here, and I'm going to add color to it. So where am I adding it? Well, with my magic wand tool, I'm going to select all of these areas. And then I have my WC Paint mask selected. I'm not selecting the swatch, but I'm selecting the layer mask here. And when I'm working on a layer mask, I'm working only with black and white. So to cut holes in that mask, I use white. And to fill holes in, I use black. And the clue is actually the mask itself. It just sort of has, if you look at these masks, they're only in black and white. So when I select this, over here on the left, my color picker, if your color picker was not set to black and white, it will set to white and black or white. So I want to put some holes in my layer mask where these are. And so to add holes, I am using the color white. So for my foreground color is white. And now I'm going to flood this area with my paint bucket. So the paint bucket tool is about halfway down. It looks like a little paint bucket, and if you can't find the paint bucket tool, look for the gradient tool. The gradient tool is tucked underneath the paint bucket tool. So you'll either see the gradient tool or the paint bucket tool. So if you see the gradient tool, left click and hold, find the paint bucket tool. And now I'll just go over to the areas that I selected with my magic wand earlier, and I'll just flood those areas with my paint bucket. And they are added to this layer mask, and you can see that they are the exact color of the stiles and rails over here. So that means that if I were to change the color of the stiles and rails, these will change too, because everything that is on this layer will be selected or changed. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hit cancel. I just wanted to show you. So now let's look at the panels in here. So I'm going to go to my magic wand tool, and I'm going to select the two inner panels. And I am going to add to my wall cabinet panel layer mask. I'm going to add these to this layer mask where I have these wall cabinets over here. So I have my wall cabinets layer mask selected. And then I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool. And I'm just going to flood this area. And you'll see that it has done two things. One, it has put the paint color in, and it has applied the shadows as well. So if if these shadows are a little too dull, or maybe I want to crisp them up a little bit, I can do that. I'm going to deselect, and to deselect, I can come down here to this floating menu here and click deselect. So those were selected. But I'm going to play with this inner shadow for my wall covering, my wall cabinet panel. When I see WC, I often think of wall covering. All right, so I'm going to click on inner shadow here. And maybe just make them a little less and maybe a little darker. I'm just kind of crisping them up a little bit. So I'm bringing up the opacity and I'm making them a little smaller. And these, you just need to play with these things. So, that looks like, I think that looks a little better. All right, so let's do something else. Should I do stainless or should I do base cabinet? I'll do base cabinets here. All right, so I'm going to come over and I'm going to do these base cabinets. So I'm going to choose a wood, and let's see what I've got. So I'm not sure what I've got here in my, I don't think I have woods in my assets, but I do have in my Project 9 texture and image files, I have some wood patterns here. We'll get to wood floors in a minute. And let's just see. So I don't know, should I just do like a mahogany? I've got walnut here. Maybe I'll do this walnut. So I'm gonna choose this walnut to pattern here. Let's see how that works. Okay, so I'm gonna put that on my other screen. I just wanted to see what I wanted to bring in. So now I need to bring that in so that I can load it into Photoshop. So I'm gonna go to File, Open, and then go to my Project 9 textures, go to wood patterns, and what did I say? Walnut. So here is my walnut 2. So there is my walnut, and I need to now load this up into Photoshop's memory. So I'll go to Edit, Define Pattern. It's calling it walnut 2. That's fine by me. I'll just hit OK. And it doesn't look like it's done anything, but it's now in the memory here. So, all right. So now let's think about the base cabinets here. All right. So for the base cabinets, I'm gonna have I'm gonna have, let me go over to my magic wand here. I'm gonna have wood that is going, the wood grain for the styles is gonna be vertical. It's gonna be up and down. And then the wood grain for the drawers and the rails is going to be running horizontally. So I've got wood running in two different directions. So that means I need to have wood on two different layers. So I'm going to have vertical wood here. I'm going to have horizontal wood here. And then I want to do the same thing that I'm doing over here with the panel and the inner shadow, but I'm going to do that in wood too as well. So for my base cabinets, I'm going to have three layers: vertical wood, horizontal wood, and then the inner panel, the panel for the base cabinets. So let's start with the vertical. So I'm going to choose all of my styles. And then I'm going to go to my black and white cookie, choose pattern, and there is my walnut. And I can see that this walnut is not actually a tileable texture. I have like an edge here, so that's not really cool. But I can live with it because I can move this texture around. So I'm just going to kind of move it so that this edge here, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but this is like a little bit lighter here than it is here. I'm going to move it down. So I've got my walnut graining running vertically here. Actually, I think that's going to look okay. So I'm going to hit OK here. And before I forget, I'm going to call this base cabinet. So I'm going to call it BC, and then I'm going to call it vertical wood. Just so I know, because later on, I'm going to add vertical wood to the base cabinet over here. So I want to make sure that I'm on the right layer. All right, so now let's do the horizontal. So I've got these rails, and then I'm going to do the drawers too, horizontally, horizontal wood. And I'll go to my adjustment layer, black and white cookie, choose pattern, and I will choose that same walnut, but I want it to run horizontally. Well, I can do that by changing the angle. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to just rotate this 90 degrees. And now, sure enough, my wood is running horizontally, and I'm going to kind of move it so it looks clean and neat. And I'll hit OK. And maybe that wood's a little dark, but yeah, it's fine. So base cabinet, horizontal wood. All right, let's do one more, and that's for the panels in here. So I'll choose these panels. Oops. By the way, so I did something here. Let me deselect here. And so I've got my magic wand here, right? And I accidentally hit my caps lock. And when you hit your caps lock, your magic wand or any tool that you're on turns into these little crosshairs here. And if you see that, don't panic. All that means is you inadvertently put your caps lock on. So turn your caps lock off and you'll get your tool back. I don't know why Photoshop does that, but it does do that. So I just accidentally hit my caps lock and it turned that into the crosshairs. So I thought I might as well mention it to y'all. Okay, so I'm gonna select these two panels. I'm holding my shift key to select multiple panels. Go to my black and white cookie, go to pattern, choose my walnut, move it so it looks where I want it, and then hit OK. All right, so now I want to do the same inner shadow that I did for the wall cabinets here. So I can do it by hand, but you can also copy this inner shadow. So before I do that, let me just name this base cabinet panel. So I'm going to go over my wall cabinet panels here, and I'm going to right click on this inner shadow here, and I'm going to copy the layer style. And then I'll go to my base cabinet panel layer, right click, and paste layer style. It's right here near the bottom. And you can see that it put it right in, and I didn't have to fuss with anything. It just put the shadow right in. So when I want to do my my wood on here, um I'll do I'll do one of these here. So I want horizontal wood over here. So let me go to base cabinet horizontal wood. I'll select the layer mask, and I'll select all my horizontals. Good. I have the layer mask selected. Good. Go over to my paint bucket, flood those areas, and boom, I get the pattern. And this is kind of oops. This is just a little bit of an unfortunate pattern, and I apologize, but because it's not exactly a tileable texture. So you can use it if you want, but if you want to choose another one, like if you go to SketchUp Texture Club or one of those other sites, or just Google wood grain patterns, tileable textures, you'll be able to get some tileable texture. So for whatever reason, I'm using a tileable texture here that is not a tileable texture because I'm getting this image here. So anyway, but that is how you would continue to add, let me do one more here just for the fun of it. So I'm going to do the verticals here. And I'll find my base cabinet vertical, choose my paint bucket tool, flood that area, and it floods right away. And while I'm at it, I'll do my panels here too. You can see once you get oops, I did wall cabinet panels, and I want to do base cabinet panels. So that's why I have BC for base cabinet and WC for wall cabinets. So I accidentally flooded the wrong area. There we go. Okay, so let's move on to something else. Let's talk about the floor. I'm going to put in a wood floor here, and I'm going to try to make it a little bit perspective-y. So let's see what I've got in my that's my CAD 2 class. Other files. I want my CAD 2 assets. Here we go. All right, so I've got some wood floors here that I brought that I have, and I don't know, there's some knotty pine here. I guess I'm just gonna I'm just gonna choose this knotty pine. I don't I'm just gonna use that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this knotty pine floor. It's in my Project 9 wood floors here, and I'm going to place it into my rendering. So I will go to, and I'm going to do it the proper way here, File, Place Embedded, and go over to my wood floors and knotty pine. I've got a horizontal, I've got a vertical. I'm going to pick that horizontal knotty pine. And there it is, my huge knotty pine floor. I'm going to zoom out. I'm just holding my Alt key and rolling my mouse wheel to zoom out here. And I'm going to kind of position, well, I'm going to start distorting this. So I'm in the transform tool, and I know that because I've got that blue X running in here. And by the way, let me just, if I get out of the transform tool, and now I am just, I've just got my knotty pine in my rendering. And by the way, it has brought it in on its own layer here, knotty pine floor. But let's say I want to transform, I want to start warping this thing. To get into the transform tool, Control T. Control T gets you into the transform tool. So the first thing I'm going to do is squish this floor. And if I grab this grip here up at the top and I start to pull down, it's changing the size of my whole floor. And that's not really what I want to do. I want to squish it. So I'm holding down my shift key. I'm holding my shift key and then I'm squishing the floor and I'm kind of like compressing those floor base, those floor slats or floor uh, panels here. And then I'm gonna continue to hold my shift key and I'm gonna pull this out. And maybe pull this up a little bit. So I'm really kind of squishing my floor here. And I want to also warp it so that it looks a little more three-dimensional. And I'm going to pull this out on this side and this out on the other side. But to do that, before I do that, I want it to be horizontal here, and I want to give myself a guideline here to sort of mark the bottom of my floor. And to pull a guideline in, there's some rulers up at the top and on the left side. And I can pull a guideline in by just left clicking on the ruler and then dragging down, and I will get a guideline that I'm going to just align with the bottom of my floor, just like that. And now I'm going to start warping this. Up until now, we've been
Hey,
holding
Paul.
the shift. Yes, hold on. Yes, go on.
I don't have my like ruler.
I don't
Hmm.
either.
Okay, so just go over to your view menu and then come down to rulers. Make sure that it's checked.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, because sometimes that you don't see them. All right, so again, and just to get a guideline, just click on the ruler and pull down. And when you want to get rid of your guideline, just pull it back up to the ruler. All right.
The ruler too, I'm sorry. Is there like a different way to set it up for what units it's in?
Sure. You can right click on the ruler and set it to inches.
Ah, there we go. Thank you.
Is yours not set to inches?
No, it's set to pixels.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. I thought that by default it would be inches, but okay.
Why will it not change? It won't change. Oh, wow.
So,
It won't. It's like, I don't know if it's frozen or
are you maybe in another command or something?
maybe I still have that transform on.
Maybe. So,
There we go. That's what did it. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, so what I've been doing, well, I want to get back into the transform tool here. So I'm hitting Control T, and I get that X here. And remember, I've been holding Shift to squish and to stretch my image. But now I want to warp it. So to warp the image, instead of holding Shift, I'm going to hit Control or hold Control. And then I'm going to grab one of these lower grips here. I'm going to grab the lower left one here, and I'm going to slide it out to the left, and I'm going to try to keep it on or near that guideline that I drew. And you can see that it's kind of like giving it a sort of three-dimensional quality. And then while I'm continuing to hold my Control key, I'm going to grab the right grip and do the same thing, kind of pull it out And again, I'm using that guideline that I drew as kind of a guide for the bottom of it. And pull it out as far as you want to make it look, three-dimensional. And it helps to make the floor look a little, like it's kind of coming out toward you. And when you're happy, just hit enter or click done, and boom, you've got yourself a nice little floor. I'm going to go back over here to my wall and base cabinets here.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So if you're like if the image you chose, the floorboards are like really smushed, is there a way to like change the scale of it once it's put in?
No. But here's what you could do. All right, let me go back into transform and let me pull this. Oop. I'm going to pull this out. So notice as I'm pulling it out, my floorboards are getting less and less squished. They're getting bigger and bigger here. And but now, I have more floorboard than I want. I want to have a little white space down here. So what I could do is I could erase part of this, and I could use the rectangular marquee here and select the area that I don't want, and then I could erase it with the eraser tool. The eraser tool is actually directly above the the paint bucket tool. And if I click on this, okay, so when I click on this, it's telling me that the smart object must be rasterized. All rasterizing is it turns my image into pixels so that Photoshop can do something with it. So if I click OK, then I can. Wait, let me make my eraser bigger. I can erase that out. So that would be a way that you could fix it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I'm gonna undo that. I just kind of wanted to show you that yes, there is a way to fix anything. All right, I want to go back to here. So these are the sides of my cabinets, and I want to color those as well. And I really didn't before, so I'm gonna do that now. And the reason that I want to treat them a little bit differently is that because they're sort of sticking out, they're theoretically coming out toward us. I like to make them a little bit lighter in color than the styles in the wall cabinets over here. So I'm going to just create a new adjustment layer, solid color adjustment layer here for that. No big deal here. And I'm going to call this wall cabinet side, WC side. And then I'm just going to lighten the color. So I can either do it with the color picker here and just choose just a slightly lighter color here, or I can do it with the opacity of the layer. So I am on my the wall cabinet side layer here, and there is an opacity right here that's set to 100%. And I can bring that down just ever so slightly, and it's going to make this color a little bit lighter. And what it does is it just changes it so that it doesn't look like it's in the same plane. It just kind of looks like it's pulling it out a little bit from the face of these cabinets here. So and you could do the exact same thing with the base cabinet down here. You can just use that and then just bring up the opacity. I'm actually gonna do the countertop here, I think. So I'm gonna select my countertop and I will go to my black and white cookie, go to pattern, and I'm going to use the same stone, I think, here. So let me find that. Yeah, there it is. And that actually that is not, yeah, that looks okay. But now I'm looking at my wall, the stone that I have on the wall, and I want this to be a little a little different, a bit of a different color than this. And so what I'm going to do is the same kind of thing that I did over here. I can either make this one lighter, the front of my cabinet, the front of my counter lighter, or I could make my backsplash a little lighter. And I'm going to call this countertop. And I think I'm going to make the backsplash a little bit lighter. I don't know. Could do it either way. So I'm going down to my backsplash layer here, and I'm going to bring up lower the opacity just a squidgle. Just that much, just so that there's a little bit of differentiation between the counter, the countertop, and the backsplash. Now, if your backsplash is a subway tile and is a completely different material, you don't have to worry about that. But I am just trying to get the slightest amount of differentiation here. You know, the other thing is I could also put a shadow underneath this countertop to because if you know it could be sticking out in front of the base cabinets, and actually that might be nice. So let me go over to my countertop here, and I am gonna go to my adjustment layers, my black and white cookie, but in this instance, rather than a inner shadow, oops, I'm sorry, not my black and white cookie. I'm gonna go to my FX. Sorry. Rather than inner shadow, I am going to do a drop shadow. So a drop shadow gives me a shadow underneath this countertop here, rather than inside the face of whatever it is. So I'm going to go to drop shadow here. And I'm going to make sure that use global light is not checked here because I want this shadow to act differently than the others. And I'm going to just change this shadow to 90 degrees and bring the opacity up. And you can see, you know, there is a little shadow here, and now the countertop looks like it's extending forward a little bit, doesn't it? And I can play with this distance and spread, but I think I'll just leave that. I think that that's fine. I'm going to hit OK. You know, the same thing with my toe kick down here. Let me do the toe kick, and I'll start with the black and white, or start with the black and white cookie and do a pattern. And I'm going to do the same walnut. I'm going to have walnut down there, and that is looking really, you know, blending in here. But I am going to do I'm going to do an inner shadow here. So I will go over to my FX, inner shadow. Make it lighter or darker. I'm just going to make it relatively dark there. All right. Okay, I'm going to do one or two more things here. I'm going to put some stainless steel on this thing, and then we're going to look at an image in here, and then we're going to bring in a scale figure. So I think that is my goal here. So this is my toe kick. I want to remember to name my layers. And let me I'm selecting my fume hood here, go to my black and white cookie, go to pattern, and oh, you know what? I don't have a pattern here, so but that's fine. I'll just hit OK. I'm going to call this my hood. let me go to File and Open, and now I'll find stainless. And I've got metals. Here's a stainless right here. But edit, define pattern, stainless steel. Go back to my render here and go over to my hood. I'm going to click, double click on the swatch and change it from these leaves to stainless right there. Okay, so that scale is too big. The graining is just too much. So I'm going to bring that down. That's too little. What do I make it, like 15 or something? Actually, that's okay. And then I'm going to move this around there. So there's a reflection here, and I'm just going to kind of move it like that, I think. Hit OK. And I've got my hood. Okay, so let's look at this. So this is kind of going into the living room of the house. And I have downloaded a couple images that you can use. You don't have to use them, but you can. So I did two. I have two images here. I've kind of got like this great room here, and I've got a more formalish living room here. But if you want to go online and find a living room or a room that you want to put in here, more power to you. You can certainly do that. But I don't know which one to do. I think I'll just do this living room here. So this I'm going to bring into my render. So I'm going to place this living room in my render. So I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, and now I got to find that living room. I think this is it. There it is. So I've got the transform tool going here. I got that blue X. So that means I can move this thing around. I can make it bigger. I can adjust this however I want here. I'm going to kind of get it more or less here. And I'm just going to hit done. So I am just kind of sort of placing it where I think I want it. And a new layer has formed here. It's called living room. And if I turn that layer off, I can see that there's the opening and there is the image. So what I want to do is I want to mask out all of this image except for where it would appear in the opening. So I'm just temporarily turning this image off. And I'm going to go to my magic wand tool and I'm going to select this area here. So this is the area that I am going to want my living room to appear in, and everything else I'm going to want to mask out. So to do that, I am just going to use a regular mask. Now, we've been using masks here all along that Photoshop has been creating for us. When we use the black and white cookie, Photoshop creates that mask. But we're now going to create our own mask. And that is very easily done. It's just to the left of the black and white cookie and it's just to the right of the FX. It's right in between them. So if you go down to the black and white cookie, just to the left of it, there is a layer mask button. And if you click it, all of the rest of that image was masked out and only the image that I had selected with my magic wand is now showing. And if I go over to my living room layer, I have two thumbnails here. The mask, and I can even see the arched opening in the layer mask. That is where, the black is covering up the rest of the image, and then that little hole that we cut with our magic wand and is open, there's white there. That is what's showing through. And then the other thumbnail is the image itself. So between these two thumbnails is a little link, little chain link. And in fact, if you look, there's a little chain link between every single one of these layers. But for this one, this is kind of important because let's just say I'm not exactly happy with the way this came out. Maybe this should be smaller, or maybe I want it to be moved over more to the right or more to the left. And it's not exactly where I want it. And I want to adjust this image, but I don't want to go through that whole process of making the undoing and making another layer mask out of it. So I can easily adjust this. So if I go to the move tool and I want to move this room here or this image, what I'm doing is I'm moving everything here. I'm moving the layer, the entire layer. That's not what I want to do. I just want to move the image that is inside beyond this arched room. So I'm going to unlink the mask and the image. So now the mask will always stay here. That arched mask opening will always stay where it is. But if I select the image here, the image is highlighted, and then I go to my move tool, I can move the image around within that masked area. And if I'm not happy with the scale, I can use the transform tool too. I can just hit Control T and then pull on one of the corners and adjust this to get it just where I am happy. Tweak this to my heart's content. And when I'm happy, that's where I want it. I'm going to come back to the layer and relink them because you never know. You don't want craziness happening. So now I've relinked my mask and my image. So that is just adding a adding a layer mask to an image that you bring in, and then adjusting the image. You can just move the image around by unlinking the mask and the layer. Okay, one or two more things before I let you all go. Or you know what? I want to look at some example projects as well. So I want to bring in a scale figure. Adding a scale figure is really it's an important thing for I personally think every rendering should have a scale figure so that your client knows, okay, they know where a human being fits in this render. Are they tiny? Is it tall? In a kitchen, we kind of have an idea of scale, but I think it's always good to have a scale figure. So I'm going to bring one in. So, and I have one already. Um, let's see, just see if I can find it here. Oh, it's called Woman, I think. I've got a woman and a dog. Here it is. If you have another scale figure that you see online that you want to bring in, more power to you. Bring them in, bring that scale figure in. But I'm just going to bring in this person right here. So I'm just going to place her into my render. And here she is, woman 2. She's on her own layer and she is in the transform tool. And I can move her around. So where? How do I place her? Where does she belong here? Is she back in here? If I put her here, I can see her feet are in the family room, so that she clearly looks like she's in the family room. So here's how to place an image or a scale figure. You do it by locating their eye height. I'm just going to click done here for the moment. She's not exactly right, but I'm just going to hit done. So where is eye height? So eye height, if I'm standing in this kitchen, my eye is probably right around here. I'm thinking about my kitchen and my wall cabinets. I'm kind of like looking up at them, and I'm also looking at the entryway here to the next room. So my eye height is more or less around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a guideline just to help me. And I'm just going to say my eye height is more or less there. So when you have a scale figure, let me just qualify that and just call this an adult eye height. Not a child eye height or not a doggy eye height. This is a person eye height. So when you have a scale figure, you want to set them and they kind of like hang from their eyeballs at that horizon. This is actually the horizon line of the image. So you want to hang them from that eye height level. So right now, this person her eye height is more or less right there where my guideline is. Doesn't have to be exact because some people are a little taller, some people are a little shorter, but just generally in that zone. And her feet are wherever her feet are, that's where she is. So she's staying, we keep her eye height level, or we keep her eye height here, and then we change the location of her feet. So if I make her smaller, then she's in this other room. If I pull her and make her larger, then she is in the kitchen. If I make her really large, she is moving forward, isn't she? She's moving toward us in the kitchen. So, but every time I move her, her eye height pretty much stays where it is. So I'm going to place her right about there. And I'll just hit my enter key. And there is my scale figure. All right, I don't need this guideline anymore, so I'm just going to left click and drag it up back into my my ruler up at the top. All right, let's bring in her best friend, her dog, and I'm going to place embedded. Here he is. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of place him here. He's a little bit large. So obviously his eye height, because he's shorter than her, isn't going to be up here. He's going to be more or less over here. Okay. All right. So there I have my scale figures. There's one more thing that I want to do, and that is to give them some shadow. I want them to be, I want a shadow down at their feet. And even if this may be a brightly lit room, and you may argue, well, there are going to be no shadows. But really, when we're rendering, we want to show some. I like showing shadows a lot everywhere I can. I put shadows, but we want to put them under people or objects that are on the floor. Like if I had a table and chair in this corner over here, I'd want to put a shadow underneath it. What it does is it gives that object, weight. It gives it gravitas, right? It's sitting on the ground and it has weight and presence and and it's just not ethereal and it's not floating around. Like she almost kind of looks like she's floating around here. So I'm going to give her and her dog both a shadow. So first I'm going to start with her. So there are ways to have like, a long shadow of her that is black and then it's fuzzy and you can extend it and it's long and convoluted and I could do it, but I'm going to just show you the shortcut way to do shadows that works every time and it's really simple to do. And I use a gradient to do it. So for each of them, they're each going to have their own shadow. So I'm going to start with the woman and I'm going to create a new layer. So to create just a plain old layer without, not using the adjustment layer black and white cookie thing, there is a button that is just to the left of the trash can down at the bottom of the layer stack. And if I hover over it, it says create a new layer. So I'm creating a new layer. It's right, I'm having it, mine happens to be right above the woman uh, layer. And it's called layer one, and I'm going to call this woman shadow or the woman shadow. All right. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a round gradient and I'm going to tuck it underneath her feet. So to do that, first, I want to choose a foreground color. So my foreground color right now is white. And I'm going to just click on the foreground color. And I don't like to do shadows that are black. What they end up looking like dirty on the floor. It looks like dust underneath them. So I'm going to choose like a brown color of the floor here. I'm going to choose a dark brown here and maybe something a little darker. So I'm choosing a brown, and that's my starting point. And then I'm going to go way darker. So I'm pulling this down, 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 much darker than you think you need it to be. So this is quite a dark shadow here. The thing about Photoshop is it's always easier to go lighter than it is darker. So always side always go on the side of too dark because you can make it, or you can always make it lighter. So I've got quite a dark brown shadow here, or color for my shadow. Okay, so now I am going to create a gradient. So the gradient tool is tucked underneath the paint bucket tool. So find your paint bucket tool, left click and hold, and then find gradient. And then we're going to go up to our adjustment layers here and make some adjustments. So there's two kinds of gradients. There is just the new gradient that Photoshop is using, but I always find that this gradient works better for like photography rather than rendering. So, so for now, I'm going to stick with the classic gradient. Then I need to choose the type of gradient. So I'm going to click on this thing here, and I'm going to go to basics. There's a whole bunch of wacky, bizarre gradients here. I don't know. I don't even know why I don't know why anyone would use any of these, but they're there. But I'm going to go to basics here. And there are three gradients here. There is just this one, foreground to background. And so my foreground color is the dark brown and my background color is black. So this is going to gradate from dark brown to black. That's not what I want. And then the second one is foreground to transparent. That is the one I want. So it's going to use the foreground color, the dark, dark brown, and then it's going to gradate out to transparency. So I'll be able to see the floor. It's going to start out dark brown and then gradate out, and I'll be able to see more and more and more of the floor. And then this one is foreground to white. And I am not going to use that one either. So make sure that you have the second one selected. That is foreground to transparent. Okay, then we need to choose the type of gradient here. And the two gradients that I use the most is the linear gradient and the radial gradient. And in this case, I'm going to choose the radial gradient. Radial gradient is a round gradient. And that's what I'm going to choose. Okay, so classic gradient, foreground to transparent, radial gradient. Foreground color is a dark brown. And I'm ready to go. So I'm just going to create a big old gradient right in the middle of my rendering right here. So I'm just going to choose a center point right here, left click and hold, and I get this rubber banding effect. And that is telling me how big my gradient is going to be. And I'm just going to make, it doesn't really matter too much. I'm just going to make it this big. Boink. Right there. So a big old ugly brown gradient right in the middle of my drawing or render. Now I'm going to transform that gradient. So with the woman's shadow, I did it on the woman's shadow layer. I'm going to transform it by using the transform tool. Control T for transform. And I get the box around the gradient, and I can change the size of the gradient if I want bigger or smaller. But what I want to do, and I can move it around, what I want to do is I want to squish it down. So I'm going to hold Shift, grab this top grip, and squish it, squish it, squish it, squish it, squish it until it looks like a dark blob on the floor. Maybe it's a little bit big. I can make it a little bit smaller by pulling these. I'm holding my Shift key to squish or stretch my gradient. And I'll place it underneath her. It's actually on top of her, right? It's on top of her foot right now, or feet. And I can use my arrow keys to move pixel by pixel to get it where I want it. And if I'm not happy with it, I can always adjust it again later. But I think for now, that's going to be okay. So I'm going to hit done. All right. So the gradient, as you can see, is sitting on top of her. And I don't want that. I want her to be on top of the gradient or on top of the shadow. So I need to adjust put my woman 2 layer on top of the woman's shadow. So I'm just going to left click and hold and drag my woman shadow layer on top, or drag my woman on top of the shadow layer, or drag the shadow layer below the woman. And you can see that now her feet are on top of the shadow. Okay, it's looking a little dark, a little bit heavy. There's two things I want to do. One is to adjust the blending mode. So the blending mode is how this shadow blends with the floor. And right now it's kind of like spray paint. It's as if I spray painted a big area on the floor. And I want to change that. So there are a whole, oops, I'm changing her. So I want to be on the woman's shadow layer because I want to adjust the shadow. So I am good. There are a whole bunch of different uh, things that I can do here. You can play with them, but for dark images, I usually choose multiply. And what that does is it allows me to see the floorboards underneath her. All right, so now I changed it to multiply. It still, I think, is a little bit dark, so I'm going to play with the opacity. And I'm just going to bring the opacity down. And now it's just a little more subtle. It's not quite as extreme. And if I want to play with the size of that shadow again, I'm going to hit my transform tool, Control T. And if I hold my Shift key, I can make the shadow, a little bit bigger, put it behind her, put it to one side. Maybe it's too wide. So I can't play with this shadow as much as I want. Yes, whoever that was.
Sorry, it's not letting me transform it. It's when I put in Control T.
Wait, I'm not hearing you, Isabel. Say again.
It won't let me transform my gradient.
I don't. Your mic is breaking up. Say again. Try once more.
My transform.
Maybe put it in the chat.
Yeah, type it in the chat. If I can find the chat window. Oh. My transform isn't working. Okay, so make sure that you're on the woman's shadow layer, and then Control T, and it should work. No? I think what you might not be on the shadow layer. I think that might be the problem. Did that work for you? Oh, okay. So, all right, what you did, okay, so you may be on the shadow layer, but you probably put the shadow on the woman 2 layer. So what you need to do is undo. So just hit Control Z so that you get all the way back so that you're not seeing the shadow anymore. Then go onto the shadow layer and then put the shadow on that layer. I suspect that that is the problem. So give that a shot, Isabel, and I'll come back to you and see if that works.
I
Okay,
have another question, sorry. How did you get it to go behind her feet again?
I put her on top of the shadow. So
Oh, over in that panel.
yeah. So I dragged her. She's on this woman 2 layer here. I dragged her on top of the shadow here, on top over on
Got
top
it.
of the layer stack.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So let's do the same thing for the dog. So I'm going to create a new layer and I will call this dog shadow. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on the dog shadow layer, go to my gradient tool, and I'm just going to draw a big old gradient. There it is. And then with the transform tool, Control T, hold my shift key down and squish that shadow down. Move it over under the dog or over the dog or wherever it is. Adjust the size of it so that you're happy with it. Actually, I think that's not too bad, just like that. And then the last thing is to change the adjustment layer. So for the dog shadow. So mine is set to normal, change it to multiply. And then I generally like to zoom out. I'm holding my Alt key to zoom out, and yeah, his shadow's a little bit dark for me. So I will play with the opacity and bring his shadow down. Maybe bring her shadow down a little bit more too. Isabel, how are you? How are you doing? Was that Isabel? Still not working. Okay, why don't you hang back after class and I'll see if I can help you out. Okay, everyone. I think those are the basics, I think, for this. Just I again, this is fun for me, and I can spend lots and lots of time on this. I want to show you my crown molding here. Let me do the crown molding. Uh, and then I promise I'll be done here. So I'm going to select my crown molding. You could do this in wood, or you could do it in paint, or I'm gonna use paint, I think. So I'm going to use my black and white cookie, go to solid color, and I'm going to choose the wall color here. So there is my crown molding. And a technique that I can use to make this, this is sort of like this S shape, this curved surface here, is I can use bevel and emboss to kind of give this some depth. So I'm going to give it a shot here. So I'm on my crown molding and I'm going to go to my FX here and I'm going to choose bevel and emboss. And you can see already it's doing something here. So I've got inner bevel chosen here. I think that's the one I want, inner bevel. And then I'm changing I'm unchecking use global light down here, and I'm changing my angle to 90 degrees so it's going straight up. And actually, I think what I also want to do is change the direction. Right now, the light is going up, but I want it to go down, I think, and that's going to change this. Or maybe not. Maybe up was better. And I can, down here, I can play with the opacity of it as well. So I can make this a little bit lighter. And what I'm doing is I'm making the light part lighter here. And I can change the opacity of the dark areas here as well. So the dark is down here. I can make it, really dark or much more subtle. And it just sort of gives it just a little bit of a 3D, three-dimensional quality to it. Or you can or not, it's up to you. There is a lot of attention that is being, this is sort of given equal weight to the rest of the render in my, in my kitchen. So what I like to do is, let me find living room layer. And by the way, let me show you what I just did. So I went to the selection tool here. And if you select the selection, if you're on the selection tool and you have auto select here, and I can't find this layer, what I'll do is just click on this layer here, and it automatically jumped to my living room. Watch, let me click on her. You can see that it jumped to my woman 2 layer. So if ever you can't quite find what layer something's on, you can click on this and it will jump to that layer. So I'm on my living room layer here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the opacity down a little bit. Maybe that's just a little too much. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of graying it out a little bit so that the focus is on my room here and not the living room. What I didn't do is I didn't talk about the knobs here. So I just put in some knobs in AutoCAD, and you can or not, maybe in AutoCAD, you don't have any knobs and you want to show them in Photoshop, and you can do that. Let me show you how I can put knobs in here. So I am going to open up that one file. If I can find it, I think it might be in accessories here. No. Oh, you know what? It might be in my assets. Here it is. So I just found this on the internet. I just looked up knobs, and I found this on the internet because I thought, well, it might be cool to use these as my knobs. So I'm going to grab one of these, and then I am going to start to plop them into my render. So to do that, tucked underneath the magic wand tool is the quick selection tool. So I'm going to go to my quick select. No, wait a minute. Not quick select. Object select. And then I am going to just kind of draw a little square around here. And notice I'm getting part of the background on here as well. And let's hope. Let's see what it does here. Yeah, there. So what it did was it went tight. It found the actual knob. And so I didn't have to be too careful. I just went with my object selection tool and I just kind of like drew a box around it and it found the object. So now I'm going to take this and copy it to my clipboard. And I can do that a couple ways. Control C will copy to my clipboard, but also I could go to Edit and then Copy. That will do the same thing. So now I put this knob in my clipboard. So now let me go back to my render here. Let me zoom in and start plopping in some knobs. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to go all the way to the top of my layer stack here. And I am going to create a folder. I'm going to put all of my knobs. So there's going to be a lot of knobs. Like every single knob here is going to go on its own layer. So I want, hold on, let me get off the quick selection tool because it's trying to select my rendering here. So, so what I want to do is I want to put all of my knobs into into their own folder. So next to the or next to the create a new layer, there's a create a new group. It looks like a folder, but it's called a group. So I guess Photoshop calls it a group and not a folder. But in any case, I'm going to create a new group. It's called Group One, and I'm going to call this my knobs. All right. And then I'm going to open it up, or I'm going to put my knobs in this knobs folder here, or in this knobs group. So let me drop one of them in. So I'm going to go to File and Paste. So where is, or Edit and Paste, and that's also Control V. There it is, and there is my knob. It's really big, and I'm going to change the size of it to something that is reasonable here. I'm doing this kind of quick because I know it's getting late. All right, so there is my knob, and it is layer. It's called layer one here. I'm going to call this. I don't think I need to name all of these, but let me just make sure. Yeah. So I want to put this inside my knobs group here. So now, yeah. So, oh, I did the wrong thing. I put my crown molding in there. Bear with me here. There it is. Okay, so now my knob is in my knobs folder. So I want to make sure the first one's the toughest one to get in, but I want to make sure that all the knobs that I put in from here on out are go in there. So when I get this to a size that I like, and actually that's probably okay. So now I am just going to repeat this process. So I'm going to grab this knob and I'm going to copy it, Control C, or actually what I'll do is I'll copy the layer, duplicate the layer. And now I have, no way. I'm going to do it. Oh, okay. It remembered it. So, so all I need to do is paste, and it is creating another knob. And then with my move tool, I can move this to there. And then I'm going to paste again, Control V, V as in vampire, and move that knob there. Control V as in vampire, move that knob there. Or you could have poles, long poles, or you know, whatever makes you happy. I'll put one or two up here as well. And you can see that they're all kind of lining up and they're all going in this knobs folder here. So when I collapse this, they're all in here, but they're just collapsed. So those are all my knobs right there. And I can add if I want a special effect to this. Like maybe I want to put a little drop shadow underneath them so they look like they're popping out of the away from the face of the cabinet. So I'm going to add the drop shadow. I don't want to add the drop shadow to each and every single one of my knobs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the drop shadow to this group of knobs. So I have the knob group selected, and then I'm going to go to my FX, go to drop shadow, and play with these shadows a little bit. Just get them. They're a little bit exaggerated, but I think that that's okay. And it has put that drop shadow on all of my knobs. So even these up here. So that is an easy way to get some cabinet knobs. Maybe these are a little bit bigger, but I think you get the idea. The other thing I was going to show you was some under cabinet lighting. You might want to do that as well. And under cabinet lighting, I'm also going to just create a new layer. And I'm just going to put the new layer right at the top of my layer stack here. And I'm going to call it lighting. So to put the lighting in, first I need to pick a color for the light. And this is really the hardest part for me. I want to pick sort of a palish yellowish incandescent color, I think. Because I'm not a fan of fluorescent or so the cool LEDs it just doesn't look residential to me. So I'm picking like this palish yellow color here. And I am going to use my paintbrush tool. So the paintbrush tool is right, or just the brush tool. It is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth tool down. And if it doesn't say brush tool, left click and hold. It might say the pencil tool and choose brush tool. And my cursor turns into a little round brush. And as I move my cursor around, I can draw on I'm just drawing on my lighting layer. I'm going to undo that. I just wanted to show you. So there are up here, there's a couple settings I want to take a look at. First is the hardness. So I want this to be a soft, fluffy brush. And if my hardness is set to 100% and I draw this, it's giving me a hard, crisp line. And if I pull my hardness all the way down to 0, it's giving me a softer line. So that's what I want. I want the softer line. So that's the first thing. Then the next thing is the size. So there's two ways to do the size. You can come here and you can, move your cursor around and then try to get a good size. But I hate using this to pick my size. The way I do it is with my square brackets on my keyboard. And the square brackets are right to the right of the letter P, P as in Paul. And the left square bracket makes my paintbrush smaller, and the right square bracket makes my paintbrush bigger. So I'm going to just choose like a paintbrush that big. And I'm just going to do like a horizontal going across here. So if I just kind of like start here and I go across, well, two things. One, it's not going straight across because my freehand is really sloppy. So let me undo that. And if I want to go straight across, I'm just going to left click and hold, then hold shift and then drag. and I will get a straight line going across. So again, left click and hold down shift and pull across, and you'll get a straight line. But of course, the problem here is that it's going on top of my wall cabinets, and I don't want that. I just want it underneath my, underneath my wall cabinets and shining on my backsplash here. Let me undo that. So what I got to do is I have to select with my magic wand the backsplash. And when I'm selecting an area with the magic wand, then that is the only area that Photoshop is going to draw or fill in or color. So so the easy way to do this is to find my backsplash layer. Here it is. And I'm going to go to the mask on my backsplash layer. And, oops, I hit the wrong button. And I'm going to hold Control and click on the mask. So again, find your backsplash layer, hold Control and click on the mask. And you'll see that the marquee is going around my entire backsplash. Now, when I go back to my lighting layer, and you want to make sure that you are indeed on the lighting layer, left click and hold my shift, pull across. I'm getting the light is shining just underneath the cabinet. So again, just like we did with the shadows though, it kind of looks like paint that's being painted on my backsplash. So this is another instance where I'm going to play with the opacity and the blending mode. So first the blending mode. So I'm on my lighting layer, and I will either do overlay or soft light when I am doing the lighting. So I think overlay is going to work a little bit better. Oh, you know what? Lighter color actually works pretty well. So find one that you're happy with. I'm going to choose overlay right now. And that's just softening it just a little bit. And then I'm going to bring the opacity down. And depending on how bright you want that light, just adjust the opacity. Let me zoom out. And let me deselect. So that opacity needs to come down, I think, a little bit. So that is a way to get some light in here. Another way, like let's just say I want some pin lights here underneath the the hood. Let me again select the backsplash. I'm holding Control and I'm selecting the backsplash mask and going back to my lighting layer. And then I'll just make these a little bit bigger, and I'll just click. I'm just clicking, just a dot, and I'm getting, some pin lights there. You can or not. It's up to you if you want to show lighting. Okay, I've held you long enough. I hope you guys are still awake. Before I stop sharing, anyone fuzzy about anything? I will have the video up, so don't worry. So one more thing I want to bring up to you all. And that is, let's just say I decide that I want my crown molding and my baseboard and the trim, the casing around my opening to be white as my design aesthetic. Even if that's what you want, put a color that is not pure white where you have white. If your white, the white in your rendering is the same color as the white of your paper, the background, your rendering looks unfinished. It looks like someone will go, "Oh, he forgot to put some color on the, on the casing or on the floorboards or up on the crown molding." So all put, like a near white or close to white, an eggshell color, something like that, that is not the same color as your background because it makes your rendering look unfinished. So just keep that in mind as you're working.